Call me J. Jonah Jameson the way I want pictures of Spider-Man right now, because Brand New Day has finally started filming after a 4-year wait. There is officially a new Spider-Man movie in production, and because of that, there is so much news to talk about. To celebrate this big day, Marvel finally dropped a Spider-Man suit reveal, and it is the only thing I've seen on my timeline the entire weekend. There is no character who has motion like Spider-Man does. He's able to break the internet like crazy. The smallest possible look at that new costume has driven people insane trying to figure out what they're cooking in this movie, and I'm absolutely one of them. It is the only thing I've been able to focus on all day long. I held off so long in making this video after the initial suit teaser in hopes that we'd see Tom in costume on set, and just when it seemed like that wouldn't happen and I was literally 30 minutes away from dropping the video, they decided to casually drop the full suit teaser, which now means I have to re-edit pretty much all of this entire video, but I've never been happier too when it means we get to see this gorgeous costume. We did get some other insane casting confirmations that absolutely made the wait worth it, but I'll talk about that in a bit, because right now, we need to talk about that suit video. I've been very vocal about the fact that the No Way Home final swing suit is my favorite live-action Spider-Man costume of all time. I was threatening to do some things that would get me arrested if Marvel even considered changing that costume outside of a few small tweaks. That being said, I may have to eat my words because somehow they've gone and improved it. The biggest takeaway by far coming out of this teaser is the fact that the new Spider-Man costume is going to have raised webbing, a concept popularized by the Raimi costume and carried over into the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. It's been missing from every single Tom Holland Spider-Man costume outside of the Civil War suit before they CGI'd all over it, and I am surprisingly happy to see it return here. I think my biggest Spider-Man suit hot take is that I don't love the raised webbing on the Raimi suit because I think the silver is a little too distracting and the lines are too thick. I definitely think that the TASM 2 suit did it the best, but because of how hit or miss it can be on a costume, I wasn't exactly pitching Marvel to bring it back. But now that I've briefly seen it on Tom's new Spider-Man costume, I finally see the vision because I think they have struck gold with how those raised webs look on the suit. I love the fact that they are black and non-reflective, but I think that it's the size and thickness of the webs that really helps to not make them distracting and just heighten the overall design of the costume by giving it more texture. The webs feel much more prominent in the design that way, as you can actually see them sticking out like that, but it's in a much more complementary way that doesn't take over the entire suit. I also do love the idea that Peter was inspired by Tobey and Andrew's costumes from No Way Home into bringing over that pattern to his new suit design, and that's not even a theory. That was directly said in the No Way Home script when it says, "Spider-Man flips and rolls across a snowy roof in a blue and red suit. New for him, but reminiscent of suits he's seen before." Effectively confirming that seeing those costumes gave Peter the inspiration to carry over those designs and always keep a little part of them with him going into the future, which I think is a really cool way to honor their legacy both in and out of the universe. I'm also very happy to see Tom's new front logo make its return. I really like that design. I think it is so sleek and feels like a natural evolution of Peter's original spider design that we've been seeing. If anything, it looks like they just made the bottom legs a little bit bigger, which honestly I think just improves it even more. I personally like when the bottom legs hang down just a little bit more on the costume. I think it takes up the space better, and it just looks so clean. I do think that the only other change I want to see on that suit is to put the classic Spider-Man logo on the back of the costume. I think it fills up the space a lot better that way and would feel like a true adaptation of that classic Spider-Man look, just with the unique twist to make the MCU version stand out. It also seems like they may have deepened the red of the costume a little bit and added some brick pattern texturing, which I think is going to go a long way to make the suit feel a lot more tangible when they have to use it in CGI scenes, because there's an actual noticeable texture on it, and we don't get that uncanny smoothness we've seen before in previous Spider-Man films. But what I'm really happy to see return most of all is that beautiful shiny blue texture on the costume. That is by far my favorite aspect of the final swing suit, and something I was really hoping they would carry over into Brand New Day, because I was fully prepared to do something dangerous if they hadn't, and I am so beyond happy that it is returning once again. I think the shiny reflective blue on the underparts of the costume makes the suit stand out so much and gives it a very unique look. I was a little worried that it wouldn't, because that suit at the end of No Way Home was entirely CGI, as there was no miracle fabric that would actually reflect like that, but somehow, someway, they managed to pull it off. It might just be the lack of lighting, but it does seem like they did darken it a little bit, but I'm more than willing to take that if it means we can get the shiny reflective surface in practicality like that. I'm just begging them to shine a light on it so I can see how bright it actually is. They're only on screen for legitimately half a second, but we do get a very blurry peek at his web shooters in the film, and I love how scrappy they look. Personally, I think it's a cop-out when the web shooter is kept under the suit because it's just so much more visually interesting when we actually see a shooting device on his wrist. And the fact that it takes up so much more space than his previous one and feels bulky is a great way to visually show that Peter is on his own and is having to scrap for resources, especially considering the fact that the web shooters don't seem to be identical. It really helps to reinforce how DIY this suit is, and I cannot wait to see them up close and in HD, which, you know, with my luck is probably going to drop the second I post this video. And if I could just pull one more thing out of this teaser that I want to talk about, it's the fact that Tom's hair is visibly much more messy, and I think that is such a small detail that goes a very long way to show just where Peter's at in his life right now. The fact that his hair is much more unkempt works so well when he's at his lowest point and shows that he barely is taking any care of himself anymore. Letting his hair grow out and not even brushing it because this man is poor, broke, and lonely, and you know that is exactly how I love my MCU Spider-Man. Honestly, if the movie takes place over the span of like a month or two, I would love to see his hair get longer as the story goes on before he finally does cut it at the end of the film to signify him accepting being Peter Parker again. But that's just wishful thinking. And you know what, now that I think about it, he could have just taken the mask off and that's why it's messy, but I'm gonna go with my interpretation because it's much more depressing and that's exactly what I want to see. That being said, take it all in because this is probably the only time we're gonna see Tom smiling in that Spider-Man costume. I'm very interested to see what lenses they use on the costume. Personally, I really hope that they bring back the previous expressive lenses we've seen before. Spider-Man is a character who is known for his personality, so I think that giving him expressive lenses in live action goes a long way to show just how outgoing he can be. It's been my favorite part of every MCU Spider-Man costume, so I'm really pulling for them to bring them back over. If they do have to change it, I hope they just make him a little bit bigger, but as long as they're expressive, I'll be happy. And one last little thing I want to note about this teaser is the fact that I'm pretty sure it confirms Michael Giacchino is back as the composer, which is the best possible news we could have heard. We hear notes from his track, Peter Parker Picked a Perilously Precarious Profession. Got that in one take, by the way. Very impressed with that. And the fact that he retweeted this teaser gives me a lot of hope we're going to see him return, which has me so excited. He has been on an untouchable run when it comes to comic book movies, and I would love to hear him take that iconic leitmotif he crafted and evolve it along with Peter's character just to show how far he's come. Honestly, I'm surprised I managed to talk about 30 seconds of footage for 7 minutes long, but thankfully being a Spider-Man fan is never boring. Even if suit discourse can get exhausting, but honestly, I've seen enough. This is already my favorite live-action Spider-Man costume. I think it looks even better than it did at the end of No Way Home. Every choice they've made to create this suit practically has been entirely for the better and has resulted in a perfect classic Spider-Man suit. The size of the raised webbing is just right, the colors pop beautifully on screen, there's so much gorgeous texture to stare at, and it all comes together to create the definitive live-action Spider-Man costume. But here's the thing, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We still have so much Spider-Man news to go into. Currently, right now as you watch this video, unless I guess you're watching this pretty much anytime after the next 2 weeks, as they are filming a massive action scene where over 50 different roads have been closed in Glasgow. I don't know how I could possibly put that into perspective for you, but the fact that they've closed dozens of roads is a huge sign that they are putting together this incredible practical action set piece for the movie. Tom Holland himself even teased this a few weeks ago when he said that they're leaning into old school filmmaking for this movie, and they're going to be putting together a practical action set piece.
We're really going to lean into that old school filmmaking and shoot in real locations, which is why we're starting in Glasgow, but this massive set piece that we're putting together.
That is the most exciting thing ever to me, and I cannot wait to see what they're officially cooking up. Rumors have rumored that it's going to be Punisher and Spider-Man both going after a damage control convoy, which can mean so many different things that I'm sure we're going to learn more about in the coming days. After Marvel basically had to film the entirety of No Way Home on a soundstage due to the pandemic, I think it's really cool that we're seeing them return to their roots and make this entire movie as practically as possible. It's going to be so thrilling to see what kind of effects they can do with Spider-Man in camera with today's technology. But one thing we're not going to have to wait a long time to learn is the fact that Michael Mando is officially returning in Spider-Man Brand New Day as the Scorpion. A return nearly 10 years in the making, as he's no longer confined to post-credit scene purgatory. I have been been waiting so long for them to fulfill the promise of Mac Gargan hunting down Spider-Man and finally becoming a proper version of the Scorpion in live action. He's pretty much the last heavy hitter of Spider-Man's rogues gallery that we haven't seen in live action yet, and it's going to be so rewarding to finally see him step into that big green Scorpion costume. I think it would be so cool if after the events of No Way Home, they have J. Jonah Jameson fund a now out-of-prison Mac Gargan and have him try and kill Spider-Man like his origin is in the comics. It's a way to get Jonah back involved in this story, and I think it'd be really interesting if you built off of the spell in No Way Home and gave him this lingering sense of frustration as if he used to know who Spider-Man is and he can't put it all together, because for a journalist like Jonah, seeing all of his notes magically changed would drive him insane, and I would love to see that manifest in him creating the Scorpion and having him try and hunt down Spider-Man so we can finally unmask that menace. And then from there, we can just have Jonah see the error of his ways as Scorpion goes too far, and that can start the J. Jonah Jameson redemption arc over the trilogy, while Scorpion becomes the mastermind criminal in the New York City underground he was destined to be. But I just think it's so insane that after all these years, we finally have it confirmed that he's returning. I honestly can't wait to see how he fits into this movie, because that is surely the most insane thing that's going to happen in this film. I'm sorry, what? What do you mean that rumor I made fun of months ago that Spider-Man 4 would have the Hulk and Punisher in it is actually true? Or that one weird rumor about the movie originally being a Spider-Man and Punisher team-up to fight the Hulk, which I refuse to believe is true. That was 100% Marvel feeding fake information to leakers so they can figure out who they're gonna assassinate, because none of that makes sense at all. I can't believe that's finally been confirmed, because that's the most insane thing we're ever gonna hear. Not only the fact that two of Marvel's original big three are gonna be in a movie together, but even with the rights deal where we have two characters owned by two studios that aren't Marvel are now interacting in a movie together is just a legal nightmare that I can't believe they pulled off. But I'm really interested to see how the Hulk fits into this movie. There's a natural reason to fit pretty much everyone else we're gonna talk about into the film, and now we have someone like Bruce Banner thrown into the mix, which if handled incorrectly could upset the street level balance of the film, but I think there's a way they can pull it off. The article that confirms Mark Ruffalo would appear in the film did also confirm that we're gonna have Spider-Man and the Punisher and the Hulk all fight each other in the film, which is a sentence I never thought I would say in my entire life, but it's also just really funny to picture the Punisher trying to fight the Hulk. It's gonna make the coughing baby versus the hydrogen bomb look competitive in comparison. I don't think there's a single world where the Punisher could actually do some substantial damage to the Hulk, but I am really looking forward to seeing what kind of creative action they pull off to make that happen. Looking at the fact that the main cast of this movie is going to have Spider-Man, the Hulk, and the Punisher in it, it seems to me like the film is going to be about learning to control your anger. In the years since No Way Home, I think that Peter has become hardened by years of isolation and not allowing himself to be Peter Parker anymore, exclusively operating as Spider-Man, afraid to make new attachments, and we're seeing the self-destructive toll that has on him when he's not allowed to have a social life or any joy surrounding him outside of stopping criminals. Obsessed with the mantra of great power comes great responsibility to the point where he's actively hurting himself and letting that trauma fuel his anger as he takes it out on the criminal underworld. And then you have the Punisher, someone who operates as a cautionary tale of what happens when you allow your anger to control you. Frank has basically never been in a good mental state his entire life, and I think presenting Peter with someone like that to serve as this warning of what he will become if he keeps going forward with his mission without trying to maintain that healthy work-life balance, it creates a very interesting conflict between the two and a great character arc for Peter over the course of the movie. And then finally you have a character like the Hulk, who is the hero when it comes to anger issues. Even if it does seem like he's actually found a happy place, I do think that's gonna change. My big theory for how the Hulk fits into this film is that he's going to be corrupted by none other than Mr. Negative, someone who is all but confirmed to appear in this film. So many different scoopers have reported on the fact that they're bringing this character into the MCU in Brand New Day, and while no credible trades have yet, I think we can say this one is true now. We do see the demon logo on a tank at one point, and I feel like that's as close as we're gonna get without them outright saying Mr. Negative is in the film. And if you're gonna tell a Spider-Man story all about balance, it makes so much sense to include Mr. Negative as the villain, someone who is always trying to corrupt his adversaries. Going up against Spider-Man at his lowest point mentally is the most fascinating idea I could think of right now, and even more so when you throw someone like the Hulk into the mix, because I think that Mr. Negative is going to upset the balance in Professor Hulk and bring back the Savage Hulk. Never in my life did I think it would happen in a Spider-Man movie, but when you have someone like Mr. Negative as the villain, it is the perfect opportunity to present an in-universe reason for why Bruce Banner becomes the Hulk again. He may have been able to scientifically merge the brain and the brawn, but when you throw someone with psychological superpowers at him, that will completely undo all the hard work he's done in a way that is everlasting, and can finally give us a true, proper Hulk adaptation on the big screen. I fully see the Vision like a prophet right now and have so much faith that Destin Daniel Cretton is cooking up maybe the best Spider-Man movie we've ever seen, which is absolutely me speaking in hyperbole, but with all of these elements coming together, there's no way this movie is anything less than spectacular. So now knowing all this information on what we can expect in Spider-Man Brand New Day, I want to try and give my very early prediction of what we can expect for this movie's plot. This is no doubt going to be completely wrong, but I think it's going to be really funny when I come back to watch this video in a year just to see how far I missed the mark. I think the film is going to open with a montage covering what Peter has been up to over the last few years, showing us him making his way through a now established rogues gallery as he defeats the likes of Boomerang, the Tarantula, and Tombstone. 3 characters who have been heavily rumored for a few months thanks to Destin Daniel Cretton's assistant posting this picture on Instagram showing a comic cover with Boomerang and Tarantula. I feel like it's basically all but confirmed at this point, along with a report from someone at this Disney presentation a while back saying that Boomerang, Tombstone, and Scorpion would be in the film, and considering that 2/3 of those are true, I feel like via the transitive property we can say that Tombstone is in this movie as well. That all makes sense? I know it's a very tricky web of information to follow, but you'll get the hang of it. I would also love to see Peter fighting through the born-again blackout and a brief glimpse at his void room in that montage. I feel like it'd be a missed opportunity not to include that in the film, but just open the movie showing us what we've missed with Spider-Man over the last few years and establish this new status quo for the character. I think the montage will end with the Scorpion fight as the Punisher arrives on the scene to try and finish the job, but Peter stops him from killing as he gets the Scorpion arrested before Frank can do any damage. That sets up the conflict between those two for the rest of the film. From there, we'll see Peter return to his very disheveled apartment as he sees on social media that Ned and MJ graduated from MIT. It's been a few years since the ending of No Way Home, and I think that in that time, if Ned and MJ graduate from MIT, it can reinforce the fact that Peter has remained stagnant in life. He hasn't accomplished anything outside of his work as Spider-Man, and this can be the wake-up call he needs to finally try being Peter Parker again, inspiring him to enroll at school at Empire State University, where his new teacher is the Professor Hulk. The only way I can see Banner possibly fitting into this film is if he takes up a job teaching. It's an easy way to get those characters interacting and does something new with the Bruce Banner character, and finally lets him actually be a Professor Hulk. And then to close the last loop on this movie, have Sadie Sink play Gwen Stacy, one of his classmates that he's remaining distant from despite her advances as he doesn't want to reform that social connection. In the background of New York City during all this, a gang war will break out to fill the power vacuum left by the Kingpin, presumably after the events of Born Again Season 2, thus inspiring someone like Mr. Negative to take charge. Listen, we're already basically doing a live-action Spider-Man PS4, so we might as well borrow that plot point. Later that day, there will be a prison convoy transferring Scorpion, and Punisher will arrive on the scene to try and finish the job as Spider-Man comes to stop him. From there, we'll get some classic Punisher argument scenes, but I think that it will end with Peter and Frank on the same page as they have to work together to stop Mr. Negative from poisoning the city, and that's when Mr. Negative uses the Hulk as a distraction to keep Spider-Man and the Punisher busy. That way we get that unhinged fight scene between the three of them, as it ends with them finally on the same page as they take on Mr. Negative and the demons in the final act of the film. You know what? I wasn't very confident when I first started writing that pitch out, but now that I've said it out loud, I'm kind of proud of that. I think that'd be a really interesting Spider-Man film to do in live action. No matter what they end up doing, I already know that it's going to be peak because it's directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who is one of my absolute favorite directors. I will take every opportunity I can to plug Short Term 12 because if at least one of you watches that movie because of this video, it was worth it. Alright, that film is a masterpiece. I truly think that this has all the pieces to be a generational Spider-Man film and one that finally gets the street level nature of the character right. Just, you know, with a Hulk there as well, which wasn't what I expected when I pitched street level Spider-Man, but it works, alright? Okay, I know this is very abrupt, but my original outro was this big bit where I talked about how the second I post the video, they're gonna drop the suit reveal, and they beat me to it. So now that joke makes no sense, and I don't have an outro. So I'm just gonna go ahead and end things there. I need to go stare at those suit pics anyways and start my new campaign for pictures of Spider-Man on set. Let me see that masked menace already. Why don't you let me know down below what you think about that Spider-Man suit teaser, along with the Hulk and Scorpion news, because I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'm sorry, I don't have time for a vague threat at the end of this video. I really need to go edit this, so just please subscribe, okay? I will get on my knees and beg.